You are listening to the IFH Podcast Network. For more amazing filmmaking and screenwriting podcasts, just go to ifhpodcastnetwork.com.
Welcome to Filmmaking Conversations with Damian Swaby.
Today on Filmmaking Conversations, I speak to Erin LOVETT. She is a writer and director with more than a decade of experience capturing intimate human stories in the US and abroad through critically acclaimed documentary television and film. Erin has directed and produced documentary television for CNN, HBO, Showtime, National Geographic, PBS, YouTube Premium, OWN, MSNBC, and Investigation Discovery. She's interested in stories that expose social justice, women's rights, environment, health, and horror. She loves a good genre film. In 2011, she produced Hot Coffee, a HBO feature documentary film that examines the infamous McDonald's hot coffee case and its role in the decline of the civil justice system. The film premiered at the 2011 Sundance Film Festival and won the Grand Jury Prize at the 2011 Seattle International Film Festival. Erin has worked with and directed several high-profile journalists such as CNN's Lisa Ling, actor Reese Witherspoon, and Sierra Jones. On today's episode, we discuss her journey via IVF, trying to have a baby, and the ups and downs women go through in these situations, such situations that many women do not speak about. I read one of her tweets on Twitter. Quote, "Today's the big day. We've launched our Seed and Spark campaign for my short psychological horror film, The Knowing, and I'd love to share more about the inspiration behind it." Well, I was desperate to hear from Erin about the film, her career, and so much more.
I have been a documentary filmmaker for over a decade, and documentary is where I've done most of my work. It's just always been kind of where I've landed. But there was a part of me that always wanted to write my own script, to direct something in the narrative space. I'm a huge horror fan. Have been since a little kid. And in the past few years, I've actually been really diving deeper into the genre and trying, because I see something that's actually quite similar to documentary, and that you explore these really human issues and emotions through, but with horror, it's more allegorical, right? There's something, a monster, or there's some sort of creature, a werewolf. There are ways to kind of look at some of these deeper things about human life in interesting ways through horror. So I was writing a lot and not really landing on anything that I really loved. I was I even joined like a writer's group, this group called the Creator Lab in Los Angeles here. And it was great because it helped me kind of look at my writing through character. And as I was going along, I was really nervous to share anything. And I just didn't feel like I had the right story until, and this is what I went into in the tweet. I, over the past few years have been going through IVF and trying to conceive. My husband and I were trying to have a baby, and it was a lot of up and downs, very traumatic at times. I didn't expect it to be that way. I didn't expect it all. We decided to do this later in life. I had been a filmmaker, and so my life is not, it's not super, stable. I'm not home all the time. I'm traveling, I'm doing this and that. And I wanted to kind of keep that up because I loved it. And I thought, what, I can address motherhood later. And so I waited. And a lot of women do that. And that's fine and great. But when it came down to it with IVF and going through all that, it was much more intense. And it was also during the COVID pandemic. So, I was doing it alone and going to appointments and in masks. And It really affected my ability to work. I wasn't able to leave Los Angeles and go on assignment because I had all these doctor's appointments that I had to be at. And once you're going through kind of cycles, you can't disrupt that. You can't.
Yeah.
They have to constantly monitor you. So it affected that part of my life. I didn't want to tell anyone. I didn't want to talk about it with family. I was very closed off. And then I experienced a loss. I got pregnant and then I lost it.
Oh, so sorry to hear that.
Thank you. And it was very, very hard. And I was going through this and I was writing. And, I'm not one to really openly share stuff. I'm just not.
Yeah.
But I started to talk to a few friends and really kind of share what I had been going through the past few years. And I was shocked to learn that a lot of people I know have gone through this. And not only that, but there's if not IVF or some sort of aspect of the reproductive journey that has been challenging and difficult for women. And we just don't talk about it. And so I decided that I was going to take my love of horror and this experience and talk about the things that we don't talk about and the ways that it impacts our lives, the way it can impact our lives. It's not just, it's not just a shot that's uncomfortable. It's the ways in which our relationships are affected, the ways in which our finances are affected, the stress and your health, your mental health can suffer, especially if you do it by yourself. And so I thought, wow, this is actually kind of something I haven't seen in horror before. We've seen a lot of Rosemary's Baby is an amazing film. It's the spawn of Satan. It's the devil baby. Or we've seen Bad Doctors, but we haven't really seen it through the lens of a woman who's experiencing this in a very kind of traumatic way.
So you said earlier that what you've gone through, a lot of women go through. Obviously, you're a filmmaker as well. And a lot of people, a lot of women especially, have their career first and they think about potentially having a baby afterwards. Wasn't there even one person, one filmmaker especially, that you could go to and have a conversation about what you're going through?
Yes, but for some reason, I didn't want to. I was very close off. And yes, there are filmmakers who are, but I think this is one of those conversations that just is a little bit taboo. And not because I think there's a lot of feelings of shame, in some ways, that your body can't, that you can't do it, or you feel pressure, and I think that's why it's very personal and why a lot of people don't talk about it. And I've come to learn a lot about what's going on, and so it's not, I feel so much better about it all, and that's fine. But there are filmmakers, I just haven't quite seen this, openly expressed. I think it's been told through the lens of comedy. Private Life was an example recently, but I think this is something more women should talk about, especially when daily we hear about reproductive rights being challenged, and women's rights being challenged. There's a lot of scary stuff out there. I mean, I just heard recently, in Missouri, they were trying to, make this law that if a woman had an ectopic pregnancy, which means the baby's in the fallopian tube, that isn't a medical emergency, and that means that woman needs to have, to get that taken care of. And in Missouri, they're saying, well, you either die or you go to jail.
Wow.
You know,
Wow. It's a
that
different type of
that is
option.
like, that is not cool. That is awful, you know,
Mm.
and women, we need to talk about these things. We need to talk about every aspect of it, because this is our body, and we deserve to be able to make choices around it all. And, you know, also like the systems that are in place in America do not make it easy for women like me to even try this. You know, I don't get maternity leave.
Oh,
I'm a freelancer,
of course. Yeah. I see what you
right?
mean. Yeah.
So like there are lots of women out there who, you know, do these for this freelance work, and it's not as easy to kind of do it when you are kind of trying to get your foot in the door. You know, you want to become more established. You want to be able to
Mm.
like be able to, you know, afford this kind of stuff, to afford a child. You know, I was fortunate that I had saved money and I could afford IVF because it's extremely expensive. But like a lot of people aren't, you know, the system's different.
Mm.
Certain France has like, you know, they can cover some IVF. You know, there's like a lot
And
of things
Germany.
that are different. Yeah, in Germany. So it's like there's some systems here that need some change.
Oh, it's the same in England. There's some systems
Yeah,
there that need looking into, and maybe from a less traditional point of view that was once known as completely correct. Things
mhm,
need to be looked at, that's for sure. And are
yeah.
you with a filmmaker too? Does your partner understand the
Yes,
process?
yeah, he does. He really gets it. My husband is, he works for a company in Los Angeles, as a production company, and he's like basically like an executive vice president
Oh, great.
guy.
Okay.
So he does more. He does lots of documentaries. He does Deadliest Catch, very famous here. So yeah, he definitely understands, and he's been incredible throughout this whole process of letting me use my voice, and or, you know, not letting me use my voice, but supporting me as I use my voice. You know,
Mm.
I think some people might shy away from this topic and be like, oh, don't you really need to put that out there? And he's never been like that. He's been amazing.
And you initially were based in documentary filmmaking,
Yeah,
and that's your thing, and that's your love. And your husband is based in a lot of documentary
yeah.
filmmaking. Did that love cross over to each other? Is that how you met
That we
and
met.
got forward?
Yeah, it is actually. We worked at the same production company at one point. So
Oh, okay.
yeah, that's how we met.
Nice one. I'm happy to hear that.
Yeah.
And now you're doing this campaign for your short film,
Mhm.
which is, very exciting and interesting. So many people do crowdfunding. I was speaking to someone, a friend of mine, a couple of days ago, and he wants to start his campaign.
Mhm.
And so many people do it. So many people hope for the best and want to raise so much money. So tell us, what are some of the first things you decided to do for your campaign?
I wanted to make sure that our mission was very clear, and that it meant something, that it wasn't just that this is a horror film and that this is entertaining, but there's also a deeper message here. Um, and that, so because I felt like if I did that, it might kind of open up a little bit more of the audience. Um, so that was one big thing. You know, one thing I think people don't realize when it comes to crowdfunding is that you have to do it all.
Yeah.
And that means I had to be an editor. We filmed our campaign video, and I edited the whole video, and
Nice.
that's not my forte, but I learned. And I used Premiere Pro, and I did it, and I called my editor friend many times for help,
That's the
but you know,
way.
you have to do it. Like, you have to be tenacious, and find and know what needs to be done, and do it, and find a way. And you have to be a graphic designer. You know, like there are lots of social media posts that you have to put together, and you know, you want your image to reflect like what you want to put out there, you know, with the film. And so I designed a logo, and like figured out the look with my producer. And we've had to learn how to like use Canva, and which is a
Yeah.
great resource. I highly recommend.
Oh, me too. Yeah.
Yeah.
Save my bacon many a time. Yeah.
But these are all new things that I didn't have to do when I was working in documentary because when I was as a documentary filmmaker, I was doing a lot of like TV and film that were funded. I wasn't funding this myself. I was not trying to crowdsource. It wasn't an independent venture. And so, here I am in this indie world, and actually I find it so thrilling. Like, it's so fun. It's so much work, but I'm meeting new people, connecting with people. The other day someone tweeted a piece of like a concept for the poster. And I just loved that, like our art is making more art. Like, I thought that was very beautiful, like how that just continues and there's excitement and people are building on that. And so that's like a big thing, is that you have to learn. You have to be able to do a lot of things and and while getting ready to film, because
Wow.
that's also happening too.
Please do message me what the person created for you.
Yeah, I will.
That sounds amazing. I'd love to see
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
And a lot of people have said when you start doing crowdfunding, it's almost like you have another job. It's like you have your full-time job, or if you're freelancing, and then you have your crowdfunding package that you have to put together and everything like that. So between yourself and the producer, who's doing what type of responsibilities, and who's defining the roles to make sure everything's done appropriately and on time?
I would say Mocha, my producer, Mocha Pantages, we talked about it from the beginning. And, as a director, I want to make sure I'm kind of overseeing everything. And I'm not trying to micromanage, but I'm also trying to, like, as you say, kind of make sure everything looks right. I always think it's good to have that gut check anyway, like in any sort of thing. So we've kind of split it up in that, I'll do kind of social media posts, and she'll kind of draft the posts, and then I'll post, and we'll do kind of conversations and talking and stuff. Or we have, contributors, and we'll break up the contributor responses. We try to make those responses very personal, because we do really care about each and every one who's kind of reached out to us. And then we also have one of our big incentives that we came up with was that we'll Photoshop you into your favorite horror movie. That's another thing, we brought on a few people to help us with the Photoshopping.
Right.
But, a lot of people's schedules are busy. We had to learn ourselves how to do the Photoshop.
No way. Sorry. I can't really, because Kavna's one thing. But
it is, I know. I was like, I had some Photoshop skills going into this, so I wasn't completely newbie, but I have gotten so much better at Photoshop because of it. But that has been really fun too. I mean, it's like, we love movies, and just like seeing what everyone's picking and putting them in there and being creative in that way has been really fun too. So yeah, we've kind of split that all up as well. And I mean, there's a lot that goes into crowdfunding. It's, you have to kind of be strategic with the incentives that you pick, and the and creative, it's just an extension of your creativity. And the other thing I think I would recommend is that if you are starting a crowdfunding campaign, find crowdfunding campaigns that have A, been successful, and B, have a look and a vibe to it that you like, and work off of that. I definitely did that with ours. Like, I was researching and trying to see, like, who's successful, who's not, why, what can we do to elevate our campaign. And it was definitely like several months of kind of figuring it all out. It's a lot of work.
Yeah, it certainly is, from what I've read and from what I've seen, and especially the successful ones. It's so much work. So I'm incredibly impressed with the amount of things you're doing. There's one guy on Twitter who he puts Paddington beer photographs in people in random films,
Oh yeah,
and
that's awesome.
it's really good the way he does it, because it always looks convincing. So
Yeah,
when I see people use Photoshop, I use Adobe After Effects a bit, but
yeah,
there's something about Photoshop. Maybe because my work doesn't really call for it, but I'm always impressed by when people can put other actors in other films or other shows. So if you're doing that with everything else as a director,
yeah.
um, I take my hat off to you. I really do. It's great work you're doing there.
Thank you.
And
It's
when
been
you're,
very fun.
yeah, I could imagine it sounds like it.
Yeah.
So when you're doing all of this, you have a relationship with Seed and Spark. Tell us about your relationship with them, because they have a great history of crowdfunding and working with some really great emerging filmmakers.
We knew going into this that we wanted to go through Seed and Spark because, you know, first of all, when we had originally wanted to do this, the rule was like, basically, if you get funding, we're going to take a percentage of it away. Like that's most crowdfunding campaigns. Literally, like a week before we were about to launch, they got away with that. So basically, all of the money that we raise will go to this film, which is incredibly generous.
Yes.
And I've always liked the philosophy of embracing diversity and embracing, representation. And I think that Seed and Spark does a great job of doing that, of working with filmmakers who are trying to increase visibility, for parts of the film community that aren't less represented. And so that was really why I wanted to do that. I also really enjoy, like, they put on a lot of events, and I've gone to
Yeah.
many where, where Mark Duplass is kind of going through like his way of writing a script or his way of like researching things. And it's very refreshing and exciting. And I've also connected through a lot of the filmmakers who currently have campaigns going, which is just another added bonus. It's like a community, and that's been really great.
And that sounds incredibly beautiful. That's so nice that you're able to be a part of something like that. But I must ask, in terms of Seed and Spark, if they don't get anything from you, how are they able to work with you in a certain way, if you get what I mean?
One of the ways that they are kind of making back the money that they are giving up is when someone pledges, they have an opportunity to tip. And this has been a thing that has been going on. They've been, kind of doing that and trying that, and have found success with it. And so I think that was what they ultimately decided on, is that the tipping model worked for them. And that yeah.
That's a very smart way to do things.
Yeah.
Yeah, that is very, very, very bold, kind of a lot of innovation behind that idea. And I like that, because I've heard of the other ways that companies make money from crowdfunding, like Kickstarter and Indiegogo. I haven't heard of what you've just said that Seed and Spark are doing. It is really, really good.
They're also really involved when you start your campaign. They're going to give you feedback that's actually really helpful.
Yeah.
And so I don't know to what extent, Kickstarter, how that works on that end, because I haven't done a campaign through them, but but I will say that I found it very helpful. We originally had a video that was about almost 3 minutes. And they're like, it's probably a good idea to cut. And I was like, okay, yeah, let's do it. So we cut it to 2. And I think that was a good move. And
just from my limited experience, I kind of think the videos that people could do, or well, since they should do, I'll say could do, need to be under 3 minutes, and maybe you have different images appearing on the screen with some of the things you're talking about. I've seen certain videos where it's like one person speaking to the screen for 3 minutes, and it's like a talking head, and that might not be as captivating or engaging as other videos could be that might support the cause a lot better. So you have this brilliant idea, this concept, and this film that you want to get made. You have to write the synopsis. How is that process for you? Because it's key, in my opinion, when I think of crowdfunding, not just crowdfunding, just people paying attention to your film. Did you write the synopsis by yourself, or did you do that
Yeah,
with your? Oh, you did.
yeah,
Okay.
I did.
How
I
did
mean,
that?
I shared it. But I wrote the script. I know this story right now, like better than anyone. Like this is a very deeply personal story for me. And I knew that what I wanted to kind of get across here. And it went through various drafts and, I wrote it, I walked away, came back to it later, you know, it's an important statement, as you say, and it's like, you want to get it right. And for me, like, especially like I included a director's statement as well, because I do have a really clear vision and mission for this film.
Are you able to, not exactly off by heart, but are you able to tell us the synopsis at all?
Yeah. So essentially, this is a story about a woman an artist who has gone through a really tough time. She has, endured IVF, had a pregnancy loss, and now she is retreated to a cabin in the woods by herself to kind of process everything she's been through. And she's thinking about the future, she's thinking about the past, all the kind of decisions that have led her to the moment. And while she's doing that, she is confronted by this very nightmarish entity who kind of is forcing a confrontation and a choice for her. So essentially, yeah, that's the story.
Right. I love it. I love it. And that story, because it's close to you, you know it better than anyone else.
Mm-hmm.
How do you feel about casting the lead role? Because
That's interesting. Yeah.
the emotional attachment to the story, it could potentially, I'm not saying it would, create certain blind spots.
Yeah.
So is it something you might leave closer in the hands of the producer?
I'm actually very excited to see how an actor can elevate this story. That is where I land with this, is that I know what I've experienced, but I know that through filmmaking and the actor brings something that I can't, which is kind of an outside perspective or a different perspective. And my hope is that through the casting process, I'll find the right, person who is connected to not only the story, but that we can connect, and that she can kind of bring what she feels is right for this role too. Like, that is important to me. It's not, this is not autobiographical either.
Yeah.
I will say it is definitely, a horror film where there's a monster and there's, I didn't see the monster. That's not really really what happened.
Course,
but I'm very excited to have an actor kind of take this and show me what they got. That's exciting.
And what are the type of key things you look for in an actor? Because every director likes different things for different reasons, in different situations or whatever it may be. What are the type of things you're looking for in this actor to really nail the job and to be able to work with them on potentially, I don't know how many days the shoot will be, but throughout the whole days? And
yeah, I think I read somewhere that it's like moments of brilliance. It doesn't have to be like a perfect greeting or line for line and get the right emotion or anything, but if they unlock something that is really special, I think I'll be able to tell. And so that's really kind of what I'm looking for. It's that moment of like, wow,
right.
That was surprising, and that was interesting, and that brings this story to another level.
Excellent. I like the sound of that. I've never thought of it that way, and I really understand what you mean. It takes it to another level. And these are the type of things you'll explain to casting directors, or will you find a whole new way of casting without casting directors?
Well, I'm really lucky because, the way I assembled this team are a lot of people I know and work with. And the casting director I have is Chrissy Fiorelli Ellington, and she is incredible. She casted a recent film that was up for Academy Award, Please Hold. It was a short film.
Wow.
And she's, I'm really putting a lot of trust in her, but we are going to work together on this. And we're actually in the process of kind of putting together the breakdown, to get casting going, because our plan is to film in June. So.
Oh, wow. Right around the corner. Wow. That is exciting. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, that's great. That's really, really good. And you said you've got an incredible team. So June is around the corner. So do you have like your sound person in mind? Do you have your cinematographer in mind, editor in mind?
Yeah, I have. My editor is actually someone you've spoke to, Rosella Terci.
Brilliant. She's amazing.
She's amazing. She and I worked together at Part 2 Pictures on Darknet.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So she is my editor. She's amazing because she was one of the first people I showed the script to. And she asked me to be the editor of the film. And I was totally blown away. I wanted to ask her, but there's also that moment of like, whoa, she's busy. She has a lot going on, and it was incredible. So so Rosella is my editor. I'm working with James Peterson. He is a cinematographer who has done incredible work. He's done mainly documentary as well. But I saw this as an opportunity, not only for myself, as a doc person trying to, show her narrative chops, which, I know I have. I just haven't done it.
Yeah.
And I know Jimmy has the same instincts, and we've worked really well together. And in fact, I remember just having a conversation with him on a train. We were going into Virginia. And we were telling a story about gay conversion therapy, and it was kind of a crazy interview that we were about to head into, but we were talking about our love of film, and he was telling me about Roger Deakins and how, he was a just total hero of his. And I just kind of stuck with me that like when the time was right, I wanted to talk to Jimmy about doing this. So that has worked out, and he's wonderful, and he checks in all the time, and we're talking about kind of looks and all that, getting ready. And then sound, I have someone I'm going to be calling right after this.
Okay.
To lock in. But I also have 2 executive producers, Josh Rubin, who he directed Werewolves Within last year, a big horror comedy feature film. And Lauren Sick, who is an amazing director herself. She's done a lot of commercials, and she recently did a horror film called Pear. And they both are executive producers and really great friends of mine. In fact, Josh was one of the very first people who him and his friend Vinny, my friend Vinny, gave me my first production role ever.
Oh, good on him.
Yeah, I worked with College Humor back in the day on comedy skits.
Okay.
And he threw me into the fire. I wasn't just a PA, I was an AC on my very first day.
Wow.
So yeah. And he's been a total incredible support in person in my life. So I'm very lucky.
AC on your first day.
Yeah. It was intense. But I loved it, like the fact that he trusted me to actually learn, and get into it and not be afraid. And that has always kind of helped me, do what I do.
Yeah, that's good of him. That's really nice of him to have that trust. And it worked out well, obviously. I mean, look where you are now. And so he saw what he saw, he was right about. That's for sure.
Yes. Yeah.
And people donating to your project, what type of gifts or exchange of items happens when people donate for certain amounts of money or whatever they can do?
Well, we have things like I mentioned the horror movie, thing, just a fun little thing. But we also have I'm also a photographer, so I've taken a few shots with my Hasselblad medium format in the Catskills, so they can kind of pick one of a high res photos, that's really nice framed if they want. There's also credits, you can be on the credits and we'll thank you with a special thanks. And one thing we did that was really fun, it sold out very quickly, is an Easter egg. So
Oh,
we have asked people to kind of, if they want, give us an idea for an Easter egg and we'll put it in the film. So we're working on collecting all those now. That was quite a popular one,
yeah.
and it definitely sold out fast. The other one we actually have one left of this, is a stay at the cabin where we're going to be filming.
The horror.
And the horror film. but it is a very lovely cabin. It's actually my cabin.
Oh, okay.
My husband and I own it, and it's a very, very beautiful place, oasis, like 3 acres,
Wow.
pretty quiet. There's actually no Wi-Fi there, so it's a little nice break from the city.
A real
from New York
getaway.
City. Yeah, a real getaway. It's in upstate New York, around like basically in the center of all the cool stuff. So
Okay. That's
yeah.
great. That's a great idea you have there. And I love all the ideas because they're also original. Because a lot of times people say, well, you'll get a free t-shirt or
Yeah.
a cap, a mug. And I'm not saying none of those things are great, but what you're offering is something where it's like, I can't just jump on eBay and have these things. Or I can't just go on Amazon or whatever. So it's really, really good things you're offering there.
We thought a lot about that. We were wondering, we're like, oh, well, it's horror. People like t-shirts and posters, but the cost of putting that together kind of defeats the purpose of crowdfunding. You're trying to build all the money for the film. You're not trying to take away from that. And so, maybe if our film, was in a very specific type of genre, like a werewolf movie or a slasher, I could see the fan base being a little more different and then wanting more of that stuff. But because of our film and what it's about, I didn't want to spend money on just, tchotchke stuff. I really wanted to kind of give something different, something like you said.
Yeah, completely. And it makes it so much more interesting from the get-go. You think, well, they've really thought about it. So the film itself, what's this going to be like? It's amazing that way you put it all together. And how long do you think the running time will be?
I think it's going to be about 12, 13 minutes.
12 to 13 minutes.
Yeah.
And your plan for this film, is it a gateway for you to potentially make a feature?
Yeah.
Oh, it is. Okay. Okay.
I mean, that's the plan, is that I really do want to work in the feature world. And I have some ideas to expand the story into a feature. I also have other ideas for feature scripts. And so, it's tough because it's all the time I'm spending on crowdfunding and getting the movie together. I don't really have a lot of extra time to write.
Yeah.
But that's okay. I will get there. And this whole process is just giving me a lot of confidence in what I want to do, and I think as women, sometimes having that confidence is hard to put yourself out there. And I've really put myself out there with this film in a way that I never thought I would. And the response has been really positive. And now I feel like I can do this. So, yeah.
And how much are you hoping to raise for the film?
Well, we raised our first 20,000, which is mainly for production. We have post-production costs. And so our plan is we would love to make 30, ultimately. But that would cover post, things like color, sound design, which is essential,
Yeah.
a composer, you know, these are things that we really want to add to this. And so we're kind of working on that. Today, we launched a match campaign. So we have a mystery supporter who is going to match every donation, every pledge, I should say, every pledge up to $2,000. So if you pledge today,
Yeah,
it's
that's
almost
real
like
nice.
doubling your pledge.
Yeah.
So we're really excited about that. And yeah.
I'm so happy to hear that.
Yeah, thank you.
And
Thank you very much.
how long's left to go?
We have a week.
A week. Okay.
A week.
Okay.
We were lucky in that we hit our goal very early within the campaign. I think we actually were fully funded in 10 days in.
Gosh. A lot of
yeah.
believers. That's great.
Yeah. And actually one of the people that got us across the finish line is director Mike Flanagan.
Okay.
He directed The Haunting of Hill House, Dr. Sleep, major horror films, and he is a major inspiration of mine. So when he pledged and I saw his name, I about fell to the floor. I really did. I couldn't believe it, and it was just a very exciting day.
That's amazing for you.
Yeah.
I could imagine how that would have felt. And you mentioned earlier about confidence as well. I mean, little things like that must have just such a great feeling.
It really is incredible.
So Erin, where can we find you online? I've mentioned you're on Twitter, so you got a Twitter handle, you an Instagram,
I do.
website.
My Twitter is Erin Crum. That's my old last name.
Okay.
It's ERINCRUM. I'm also on Instagram at the same handle. And I also have a newsletter, actually. I write a newsletter called Needful Things on Substack. And it's a collection, it's basically film focused, where I not only share kind of updates on what's going on in my filmmaking world, but I also share things that I'm enjoying in the horror space. So my Needful Things.
Yeah.
And that's a nod to Stephen King. He wrote a book called Needful Things. So but yeah, like, so I will share books I'm reading, films I'm watching, anything that I think is worthy of a recommendation, I will share.
Brilliant. I'm going to look into that for sure.
Thanks.
And if people want to donate to your project, to your project, where do they go to for that?
Okay, so we've created a bit.ly link, so it's shorter. So that might be a little easier to give, but it's bit.ly, bit.ly.com/theknowingfilm is the link. So if you go to Seed and Spark and type The Knowing, you'll find it as well. Excellent.
And I'll be putting all of those links in the show notes, everyone. So run to the show notes if you're listening on your iPhone or smartphone right now. Hit the links and see what it's all about, because it was absolutely great having Erin on the podcast. And I'm looking forward to seeing this film once it's made.
Oh, thank you so much, Damien.
No, thank you so much. Really appreciate you coming on, and good luck with it all.